Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. So today we're going to take a look at this lovely little boombox from Toshiba, and it's the RT-8360S, and quite a rare machine to be honest. I don't really know much about it really, there's not a great deal of information online as far as I can see. And I bought it as part of a consignment probably around 18 months ago, something like that. It's been sat on the shelf for a fair old while now obviously, and I thought now it's time to dig it out and see if we can't get it sort of cleaned up and serviced and get it back to full health. So today's job then is to have a quick look around it, see what the main functions are, test out the radio and the cassette, and then kind of fix any problems that we find on the way, I guess. So as I say, I don't know much about it. It's quite a rare model, but yeah, it looks pretty interesting. And if you know anything about it, let me know in the comments. Maybe you owned one and you've had some nice experiences with it, or maybe some bad experiences. I guess we'll find out with regard to build quality and stuff as we go. So let's take a quick look at it then. So as I say, it's the Dynamic Sound 8360 from Toshiba, and it's basically a 4-band radio cassette player. So you've got your shortwave, medium, long wave, and of course your FM there as well, with your regular mono plus stereo and a wide mode as well. So that kind of gives you that kind of faux separation or extra spatial separation of the stereo. And with regard to the tone controls and stuff, you've basically got a one pot EQ sweep if you like. So you've got low to high on the tone there, and then you've got a balance left and right and a master volume pot as well. But it also has a couple of interesting features, I've got to say. You've got the one-touch record there, nothing unusual there, but you've got the MQSS, and I'm guessing that's like the Sharp's APSS and stuff like that. So it's the auto music search system basically. So it'll be looking for gaps in the tracks in the music, and it should be able to advance the tracks left or right. I notice there's also an editor button on there as well, so you may even potentially be able to sort of say how many tracks in advance or behind that you want to go. But as I say, I haven't got any instructions for this, I haven't got a user manual, I can't find much online, so if you have got one, perhaps you can let me know how all that works. But what is quite interesting about this, you've got a lovely little thing called a jack box on the top. So these days people tend to hardwire Bluetooth modules and stuff like that into these old tape decks, especially when they don't work. But this one's got microphone in jacks on the top, but you've also got your auxiliary ins as well. So if you did have something like a phone or any other part of a music system that you wanted to jack into it, then you can plug that into the aux left and right on the top. Nice and easy to get to and easy to remove when you need to. So that's pretty cool. Now this particular one is in, I think, pretty nice condition to be fair. There's a tiny bit of plastic missing on one of the aerial stays at the back, but I think other than that, from what I can tell, it looks in really nice condition. There's nothing broken other than that, and nothing missing. All the pots and switches are okay. The aerial is intact, that's fully extended at the moment. It's pretty corroded. There's just a patina on everything to be honest. The chrome needs polishing, it's really grimy and dusty. But I've got to say overall, very nice condition. I mean, the tuner window looks really clear. You can see the bright silver on the window there. And it's also, speaking of the window, got the level and battery meter VU built into the side as well. You've got your built-in condenser mics, your stereo mics. And you'll see it's also a two-way 4-speaker system. So we've got the woofers, obviously as your main speakers, and you've got the little tweeters there as well. They look suspiciously like piezos to me. I think they're probably a bit too small for genuine tweeters, and yeah, I'm thinking around if this is really like an early 80s model, it's probably more like little piezo speakers there, like on the JVC RC680V and that kind of thing. So we'll have a look at that when we get in. But anyway, I think first thing we'll do is give it a quick test. Now I'll start with the tape. So it's actually, I think, switched on at the moment to tape mode. So okay, well, there's a decent spring there, a bit dirty, but decent spring action on the door. And let's press play. Oh, all right, I'll stop that real quick. Oh, no, I can't. Oh, hang on. Okay, well, you can see, you may be able to see that the, forgive the aerial banging on the lights there, but you might see that the stop button hasn't actually come back yet. So let's press something else. Fast forward. Yeah, it's all got stuck, it's wedged. I was about to say, actually, it feels really tight. Now, I really love the MQSS buttons on this. I think they're pretty cool because they're obviously the yellow buttons are the advanced buttons for the next track and what have you. But yeah, it looks like the whole thing, yeah, feel how clunky that is. Ah, there we go. Right, yeah, I think it's all just really greased up and dirty. And I did notice as soon as I started playing anything that I could, well, A, the take-up spindle wasn't turning at all, and B, the motor sounded like it was running pretty quickly, so the bounce obviously detached or more likely perished. So the cassette deck, I think, is a no-starter at the moment. Although, as I say, we've got power to the motor, so that's a good start. So we'll get in there and service the mech. We'll clean the heads, we'll clean the capstan, the pinch roller, change the belts, degrease the mech, clean it all up, re-lubricate it and all that. So I'll just whip these LED lights off so we can listen to the FM without any interference from the lights.
Yesterday, I like to start the week with a banger.
Okay.
Ask me if you would like a glorious day. That's all you need to know. It's a good. Microscope. Okay.
Just common name.
I'm watching
a TV show on.
Alright, well, I'm getting loads of FM stations but no FM stereo. There's no FM stereo light coming on. I'll just flick the mono stereo switch a few times. Sometimes if you haven't got any FM stereo, it can be because there's a bit of corrosion on the switch where it's been left in place for a long time. Let me just turn that off. And you can hear the motor spinning as well, so that's obviously running every time the radio's on. So I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but we'll see. Some old units had that where the motor for the tape was turning irrespective, but obviously it's not going to do it much good if it's spinning all the time whilst the radio is on and the belts aren't on there, because the motor's going to be turning like super quick. But as I was saying about the stereo here, if I just put the radio back on and some volume.
So this part of the programme,
we're getting good reception on FM.
Spoiler alert.
I'm more of a rock boy, so I can't pick.
So you can see there's loads of FM on there. I'm just going to put the lights back on real quick. So yeah, we've got loads of FM frequencies being picked up there, but nothing on the stereo. So I expect, as it's been parked up for so long, it's probably drifted a little bit, and we've probably just got to fine-tune the pilot signal or the separation on there. So we'll have a look at that as well. So what have we got then? Well, basically it's a really lovely looking unit, quite a handsome thing, some nice little features on there, but it has got a patina, it's got a surface dust and corrosion. We just need to clean all that up. We'll crack it open, service the mech, we'll give it a good clean, go through the whole thing and get the new belts on, and hopefully we'll be able to get the FM stereo back on as well. So alright then, that's the intro sorted. Let's get it on the towel of destiny and crack it open. So here we go then with the Toshiba RT-8360S. Certainly my time inside one of these, so we'll be figuring this out together. My guess is we'll probably have some sort of connectors from the battery compartment to the board, and maybe the antenna connections as well, so we'll be careful for those. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. I think 2, 4, 6, yeah, and yeah, there is one inside the battery compartment, so let's get those out, see what that gives us. Alright, well that's most of the screws out. A few of them haven't come out yet, so we'll turn it over and see if they fall out from the back. Incidentally, there was a lovely satisfying click on those, so I genuinely think this is the first time it's been opened, which means that there shouldn't be any nasty surprises. I'm just going to see if I can shake out those loose screws. There's a couple of them. Because I think this one now, yes, this one comes away from the front. Magic. Right, okay, let's see what we've got. Real careful. Okay, so we've got 3 connectors here. They're spades. We've got blue, orange and black, and they are for just the speaker connectors, so we'll get those off in a second. I'm going to take a quick picture of this as I go, and then we'll take a proper closer look and I'll show you the internal components. Right, I've just propped the face up on a little bit of foam here, so that's okay, because we may be able to leave that plugged in for a minute. Basically, they are 4.5-inch woofers, and they are indeed actual real tweeters, so they're about 1.5 inches, 40mm, something like that, so they are genuine tweeters, which is lovely. So that's all there is to see really on that side. There's nothing else really of any interest on there, just the mech, eject door spring and that sort of thing. But with regard to the main unit, and I'll just slide it across now, there we go. So we've got the tuner dial gauge here, of course, with the condenser mics coming through there. And what have we got? Yeah, so it's the left and right plus the common earth speaker connections on the spades there. We've also got the positive and negative from the board, so that's effectively the sort of DC voltage, if you like, to the board there. What else have we got? So it looks like the motor is soldered on. Bit annoying really, because I was hoping we might be able to remove the whole mech to work on it. Now, of course, we can do that just by desoldering the terminals for the motor, but when we want to test it, it just means it makes it difficult to kind of fire it up and check the motor speed and all that sort of stuff. But in any event, here we are. So the radio board just here, got various sort of IF stages, mixer amp and stuff, and this looks like the FM side, and there is a variable resistor there, so that's good news, because I've got a feeling that might need a tiny bit of tweaking to realign to get the FM stereo to work properly, so we'll come back to that later. With regard to the mech though, it looks super clean, I've got to say. Looks really nice in there. Now it's obviously been well loved and played. I can see that the pinch roller's got a definite ferrite stripe all the way around it, so we'll give that a clean, but the capstan's okay, it's not crusty or horrible. The heads look pretty good, to be fair, so alright, all good. Now, with regard to the counterbelt, that does operate the worm gear, so that's working, but it does look rather wibbly wobbly, and I think that's definitely going to be due a change, so we'll do that. Let's have a feel for the motor belt. Alright, well, you won't see this, but I can tell that the yeah, there it is, there's the belt, or what's left of it. The spindle's turning, we could hear it turning, but obviously the belt's long since disintegrated, so we're going to have to sort all that mess out. Right, okay, so to get the mech out then, it looks like we've got a screw there. Alright, there's a screw just there that needs to come out. Alright, well, I'm going to start with what I think are the obvious things first. So we've got the lovely little rose gold screw there. And there's another one at the back. We may need to get the tuner dial off, we may not. Some models that actually hides the screws to mount the deck, but I think we're okay. So that's a small machine screw just there. And sure enough, it feels like the whole mech is fairly loose. So what have we got here? I think I'm going to have to take this multi-plug out. That was harder work than it should have been. Basically, there's a loose board here, and then there's a jack socket, well, a multi-plug socket soldered onto that, into which this cable goes. So it all felt a little bit on the fragile side to me, but anyway, that's away now. So what else do we have? Right, okay, as I say, we probably need to desolder the motor. Will that come away? Yeah, I don't think it will without getting rid of the tuning dial. So I'm going to move this back into frame a little bit for you guys. There's basically a screw on either end of there. Let me just see if we can get you in. Right, one of these has an earthing point attached to it, so we'll need to put that back in later. Okay, does that come away? Does that come away? Comes away on one side. Okay, so there's a ribbon. Ah, yeah, okay. So there's a ribbon cable holding that on. Yeah, do not damage the dial cord, whatever you do. And I've just noticed that, yes, indeed, the first thing to give up the ghost is this extremely small length of wire holding the motor connection. So that's going to have to be desoldered. But I think once that's done, we can get the mech out and get to the other side of the deck, see what belts we need. So we'll get the motor away. Helpfully called blue and red for the contacts, given that the cables are actually white and pink. There's two yellow cables as well, which are probably from maybe the leaf switch contacts, and I can see a multi-plug here for the heads. So I'm just going to mark these up real quick. So I was trying to put an alignment mark. Don't think I'll see that actually, but there's like a multi-plug here. Looks like an old valve socket actually. What's that? A 2, 4, 6 or 7 pin plug-in connector that goes onto like a valve seat on there. Interesting, that's nice. And I'm also just going to mark up these cables here. Right, okay. Actually, are they soldered or are they... Right, let's have a look first. Let's see where we're actually constrained. Yeah, they've definitely not been off before. Wow, and there's the mech. Nice. Oh, lovely. Okay, fairly solid. It's kind of a, what would you call it? Kind of a crossover, I suppose. It's, yes, there's a lot of plastic in this, but it's very heavy duty, thick plastic, not flimsy stuff. It's like a proper decent sort of webbed plastic cage there, with still got some metal components, obviously for mounting critical parts, like the solenoid here for your auto stop and what have you, I guess, for the music search system. And it's got a geared mechanism, which is great. There are some rubbers in there which we'll clean up, but other than that, it looks pretty cool in there. Right, what else have we got? Single drive belt, looks like a 1mm. From what I can see from the remnants, it's a 1mm square profile belt. It looks like just the one that goes over the flywheel there. All right, so that's okay. Yeah, and those two yellow leads were for the little leaf switch there, if we can see them, and that looks nice and clean. Right, okay, so yeah, it's grimy, it's pretty grubby. Yeah, okay then, so on this side we need to just clean the capstan, the pinch roller, which you will probably see that brown, that golden kind of colour to it. The heads will need a clean, a general sort of a zhuzh, quite grimy as I say in between there. Obviously these are greased at the factory for obvious reasons, but the dirt and the grime sticks to that over the years, so we'll clean all that up and re-grease those very gently. Yeah, and on this side we'll just clean the idler rubbers there. We shall put a new belt on. Alright, so the rest of it looks pretty good, to be fair. I'm just going to gently replace this top bar for a minute. There we go. So we'll clean the switches here. We've got the record play bar sort of switch, which won't have been used in years. We've got the various, like the wavelength selector switch, which will be this long one just here. We'll give that a clean and lubricate. Whilst that probably stereo or mode switch. We've got the 3 pots we can get to really easily. You won't quite see them just there, but the pots are just hidden under here. They're dead easy to get to, and they are semi-open as well, so we can drop a little bit of alcohol in there just to clean them up a little bit, and that'll be fine. So I think the first thing will just be to clean the pots and the switches on here. Then we can put this entire part to one side and start looking at the mech, because we can then get the belts on order and get ready to put this thing back together again. Right, well that's the knobs and the switches cleaned for a minute. So just going to gently put this to one side. And then we'll get ready to service the mech. So here we are with the removed cassette mech then. Basically we've got the two leaf switch contacts here in the yellow. We've got the multi-plug here for the heads. We've got the multi-plug here, which I'm guessing is for probably the control of, yeah, there's little leaf switches and stuff just in here. So these will be for your MQSS searches. These will be your switches to turn on and off for your music searches. So that'll be that multi-plug there. Incidentally, I've just literally cleaned my hands before I started recording this, and just you can see how the belts disintegrate and just leave residue everywhere. I mean, like I said, I've literally just cleaned my hands, and yeah, it's all over the cables and stuff. So what I'm just going to do, first job, I think, is just give everything a bit of a wipe over. See if we can get rid of the traces of degenerated rubber. Anywhere we can see bits of old broken belt and stuff like that. And I'm just going to clean all the general sort of grease and detritus, I think, off of the unit. Right, I think that's pretty much that. It's quite funny, really. We do this, and you find that like 95% of the belt has gone, and quite often you never quite know where it went. Quite an interesting little thing. It's almost like it disappears into thin air. Well, until you go to put it back together and realise that it's all over your hands again. Right, anyway, here we go. So we're just going to get rid of some of this goo. It's always it's as equally gross as it is satisfying doing this. Regular viewers to the channel will know how much my girlfriend absolutely loves this. It really does. Well, let's just say she doesn't really like it at all. So this is specifically for her, this bit. The things you do for love and all that. Right. Anyway, I'm going to just keep cleaning away all this nastiness that's in here. And I'll be back in a couple of minutes when we'll clean the mech proper and start getting it serviced. Okay, that's a little bit better now. Now, people often say, especially when they're new to repairing old radios, or they find one in the loft and the cassette mech's all seized up, sometimes it can be the innards themselves. Sometimes it can literally just be the hard grease on the sliders there. So what I tend to do just to start with is just put a couple of drops of alcohol onto the sliders, because you can probably see that grease, and that grease is really hard over time. Really does get hard. And then just start working it, and what that'll allow us to do is dissolve out the grease. Yeah, nice. And it'll start moving everything up. There we go. If I can just get you into frame, you start to get that springiness back. So we just keep working them. Just keep working them for a bit. And then I go back in with another cotton bud and sort of clean up whatever's come free or come loose, because then we can re-lubricate that with a tiniest little dab of grease afterwards. But anyway, that's that bit getting done. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish cleaning all this up, get the hard grease off, dissolve it out, put a tiny little dab of new grease on the sliders, and then we'll come and clean the heads and stuff like that. Incidentally, you might just see these tiny little leaf switches just here, and they're the ones that get pressed once you do the music search. Lovely. Different manufacturers did this in different ways. Some of them put actuators at various other stages of the mechanism, but either way it's the same difference. It'll just send the signal to the sort of onboard processor or computer to tell it which direction it's going, when it needs to stop, all that kind of stuff. And the actual switches to initiate that on this particular one are literally just underneath the transport controls just there. These are really clean, don't need to do anything with them. I'm going to assume for now that they work. I know what they say about assumption, but they very rarely break down, and mechanically they're okay. It's never been opened before as far as I can tell, so nothing's been in here to bend or distort these, and they're making contact, so I'm happy with them. Right, good stuff. So now we'll clean the heads and the capstan and the pinch roller. Nothing clever about this at all. Just a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Try and get them squeaky clean. Get the residue of ferrite off. Get them nice and sparkly and shiny. Marvellous. As I say, the capstan on this particular one is actually pretty clean. But the pinch roller needs some looking at. In fact, if I just start to draw that across, two swipes and it's already turned a totally different colour look. So this is going to take some doing. Anyway, I'm going to spend a few minutes just cutting through this, giving this a darn good clean, get it back to nice supple black rubber, and I'll be back momentarily. So we've cleaned and lubed the transport controls here, checked the leaf switches, cleaned the heads, the capstan, the pinch roller, and all that remains on this side really is to remove the old counterbelt. Like so. Nicely elliptical, but it's intact, so we'll be able to use this as a kind of a template really. We'll measure this up. What I also say sometimes as well, if you don't know what the belt is that you need, just use, most of them, or a lot of them tend to be 1mm cross-section belts anyway. Some of them are 0.8, but whatever, you can measure that with a vernier if you wanted to. But I often keep a bunch of cheap belts as well, a multi-pack bag. And then if I don't have the correct one in stock for a decent quality belt, what you can do is just use the cheap ones to make sure you've got one that runs nicely. And to be fair, for counterbelts, it's not always that critical. If there's a tiny little bit of, you're not going to worry about a tiny bit of wow and flutter on a counterbelt. But obviously on the other belts, it is more important, of course. But if you don't have one and you don't know the size, just dip into your bag of multi-pack ones, find the one that fits best, measure that one, then you've got a perfect template for ordering a decent quality one. Anyway, so that's one off. You'll see that the other belt is not only not present, it's kind of embedded itself now all over the towel, which is always nice when they wet themselves like that. So yeah, the towel of destiny might be due a decent clean soon, I think. But anyway, right, let's have a look, see what we got. First thing I want to do is get the keeper off, I think, because you can sometimes just release them and sneak the belt underneath, but on this one it looks like we're probably going to have to remove them both anyways. So we'll do that, give everything a good clean, get in there, clean all the goo and the decayed belts off of the spindles, and then we'll do that little trick, as I say, of probably finding one that matches. Then we can get the belts on order. And so, as I say, for this one, we've got 2 screws by the looks of it. Now there is a resistor just here on this one, so be sure to put that back afterwards. We'll just gently peel that away. We've got another one just here. Right, they are the same. We've also, by the looks of it, probably got to remove this one as well. Like so. And that one is slightly longer. Right. Okay, so that's away. It's an interesting little shape on the end of that one, if I can get it into focus. So yeah, we may just have to be careful when we put that back, make sure we've got it tagged in properly. And there's a little bush which probably sits there. We go. That with a little sort of phosphor bronze bush or whatever it might be that goes over the actual flywheel, just there, like so. So now I think we'll actually get the flywheel out if we can. Well, there should normally be, I would have thought, a washer, an oil washer on that side. But you have to be careful here because, right, okay, you have to be careful because there's a gear on that one, which obviously locates with the gear inside of the mech. So we'll be careful when we put that back together. But what we will do at least is get in here now, just clean this residue out of the flywheel, get in here, clean up the idlers just here, make sure we get rid of any traces of the old belt, clean up the belt from the motor. Yeah, then we can get it back together and measure up which size belt we need. Oh wow, that's a lucky surprise. I genuinely hadn't expected that to come out like that. Obviously there's still some traces in there that have got to come out, so I'm going to just go ahead now, clean this pulley, as I say, clean the other stuff, and then see you on the other side. Right, I'm just going to clean these idler tyres as well. To be honest, this is more of a token gesture with these. They look pretty clean. So I'm just giving a bit of a surface dress in here. Well, that being said, I think it will benefit from a clean. Yeah, it's covered in belt. You can see it's covered in belt residue. So I'm just going to keep cleaning these up anyways. Love this job. Especially when people say, just needs a new rubber band. Time for a very quick drop of oil on the motor spindle. Just spin that a few times, let it sink in for a bit. Then a bit of alcohol just around the base, just to wipe up any loose, make sure it doesn't get onto the belt later on. Right, so we'll get this flywheel back in then so we can measure up the belt size. And this is all cleaned up now. A couple of little drill holes in there. I'm guessing that's when they probably balance the flywheel, I would imagine. Probably just take a couple of bits of metal out, a bit like balancing a car wheel. I expect that's probably what that's for. But anyway, let's get this back in here then. Righty-ho, so I'm going to give this belt a whirl. Nice, I think that's going to be alright, you know. Good. Yep, not too tight, not too slack, not slipping. Lovely. Right, okay. Let's go and see if we can put a kit together then. I'm going to go and order these up now. Hopefully I'll be here tomorrow, and we'll do a quick fade to black in a moment, and then next time you see me we should be ready to put the whole thing back together again. So just while we are waiting for the belts and everything to arrive, now be a good use of time to clean the casing up. It's in pretty nice condition, to be fair, but it's just got the general layer of kind of patina and dust and grime on it, so we'll get in all the nooks and crannies and stuff down here, all these little striations, these little stripes and grooves. Also we'll get the knobs off and clean up inside all this dust and everything there, and yeah, just give her a general clean and polish. The aerial you might see, don't know if it'll focus very well, to be honest, but it's got like a patina on it. It's all a bit grimy, and the chrome ends need polishing on the handle, all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to go and do that now, and that's one less job we have to worry about a bit later. Obviously we'll give it a proper decent polish and top dressing once he's all finished, but now's a good time when the mech's out and stuff to get into these kind of, as I say, the nooks and crannies and the holes that you can't normally get to when the buttons and that are all in place. Right, let's get on with it then. Okay, so I've given it a nice polish, not totally finished yet, but we're getting there. Now, I did notice though that the backing sticker for the tape mech is not ideal. It's peeling slightly, which we can glue back down, but it's also black and speckly and not very attractive anymore. So I'd ideally like to replace that, and I've had a search around. I can't find anything obvious to use from any other mechs. I do have one that I was going to use as a sticker, and the trouble is, to get to that I've got to get the whole unit apart, get the mech out to get to the part that I need just to get the sticker out safely. So that's going to be like half an hour's work probably, just messing about to get to a sticker. So what I've found is some tape that's, yes, it's the wrong colour, but I think once it's crisp and squarely cut in there, I think it'll look better than a mouldy piece of peeling tape in the back of there. So I think what I need to do though is get the faceplate off after all, so we'll disconnect the speaker connections from the main board here. I've already cleaned the tuner dial there, you can see that's nicely polished now. But yeah, I'm going to get that off and then get to the spring mechanism for the cassette door itself. That should give me decent enough access to be able to replace that sticker. Right, I need to get this door away now then, so I think we should be able to remove this little clamp which is going to hold the spring, and I see the spring goes into the lowest hole of the three. There we go. Right, good luck getting all this back together. There we go. Good. So that allows me to get in to give this a proper final clean just inside here, and also to be able to replace this bit of tape. Marvellous. Right, here we go then. Yeah, it's just a shame. It's good enough tape. It's not focusing, but basically it's all kind of discoloured underneath and gone, I wouldn't say mouldy as such, but just not very pretty anymore. So I'm just going to clean off this bit of glue residue off the back of here, and then measure up a fresh piece of tape just to go into that little square. Well, I don't mind telling you, that took longer than I expected. For 45-year-old glue, it's amazing how some of it just falls off because it wants to, and some of it then won't come off for all the tea in China. Anyway, I've given it a clean, I've put some isoprop on there and cut a new piece. And there we go, not perfect, but it's all working again. The spring mechanism for the eject is all back in place. I'll just test that. Marvellous. Good. Alright then, well, okay, let's see what else we need to do. Rightio then, the chassis is all clean and tidy, the mech is all serviced, and now the belts have arrived, so let's get those on. I've actually ordered 3. I've spec'd up the counter belt and 2 different main belts. I'm not sure yet which ones I need. The other one had totally disintegrated. The counter belt we had a reference for, so measured that up and we can get that on easily enough. So let's just do that first. Lovely, you can see the counter working there. Beautiful. That's it, not too loose, not too tight. Marvellous. Right, okay, but the next one then is the main belt. So we'll take a look at that, and I've actually ordered a 1mm and a 1.2mm square section. It was hard to tell from the original belt, as I say, it totally disintegrated. So I'm going to actually just try a couple and see which one suits it best, and then we'll go from there. So it's anyone's guess really whether we're looking at a 1mm or a 1.2mm cross section. As I say, the one that came out was a 1mm, so we will just try that first, or at least we think it was. And how is it for size? Yeah, that's perfect for size actually. But I'll try the 1.2 as well. I might actually go for that. Might actually just go for that. Just seems to me a little bit more beefy for a main drive belt. Yeah, I'm going to go for the slightly thicker one. Same size, of course, in terms of diameter, and I'm happy with that. It's gripping nicely. So then, time to get the plate on. I've just got to make sure I don't lose the bronze bush. In fact, I'll put that on first, like so. Good. So those 3 screws all line up properly, and let's not forget the earthing point there via that resistor. So let's get these screws in. And I remember from disassembly that this one was a slightly longer screw, and then 2 shorter ones. Just get them in loosely to start with, make sure everything's lined up nicely. Right, that thrust clearance is nice. I'm happy with that. I reckon that's going to be alright. So, as far as the mech's concerned, that's it. I think we've got the 2 belts on. Everything's been cleaned. We've lubed stuff. We've polished everything up. Capstans clean, heads are clean, pinch rollers clean, counter's working nicely. Right, it's got to be time to get it back in, I reckon. Here we are at the mothership then. So we've got the tuner dial, as I say, we've already cleaned this up, so we'll move this gently away in a moment. Hopefully we'll get this back where it needs to go. Right, so screws are back in for the mech. We've got the dial gauge screws back in, the multi-connector for the heads, and various other sort of multi-plugs, and we've just soldered the motor back on. So I think it's time to plug it in and give it a bit of a test. But obviously first thing we need to do is just hook the faceplate back on, because of course we've got to get these speakers attached on this side. So we'll do that now. Then we'll better hear whether or not the tape's working for the first time in quite some years. Okay, it's all put back together. We've got the dial arrangement back on. It's all screwed down. The multi-plug is just there for the heads. The leaf switches are in. Multi-plug there is in. We've soldered the motor. So, for the first time then in however many years, let's see if we can get a tape to play on this. So we'll test the counter first. Yep, and that's fast forwarding nicely. And rewind. Lovely. Okay, does it play? Here we go. Marvellous. Good stuff. Alright, well that's good news. So I think what we'll do now is just set it up and make sure the radio's okay. Do you remember we were going to have a look at that stereo, weren't we? So let's see if we can get the FM stereo to come on as well, and then we will be in business. Okay, so the trick now is to try and get this FM stereo light to come on. So what we shall do, that's just there. If you remember, we were getting FM, but it wasn't stereo. So I think what we need to do now is just tweak the pilot signal, which I think is going to be this variable transistor just here. So I'm going to turn the lights out because it does interfere with the FM signal. So let's just switch this. It's working in pitch black a little bit, so forgive me for a moment. Let's get it onto radio. Right, okay, so oh, it's just trying. It's just trying. There we go, there's the FM stereo. And again there. And again there as well. Admittedly, it's not in the best position at the moment for getting reception, but there we go. Beautiful. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'm happy with that. So let's get it back together and give it a proper test. So all that remains is to get this back cover on, get the knobs and switches on, one final deep clean and polish, and then time for the final reveal. So here it is then, the Toshiba RT-8360S, probably from the very early 1980s. There's really very little known about these, so if you do know anything about these or have one, do please get in touch via the comments. It'd be great to hear from you. But yeah, so anyway, it came in as part of a consignment about 18 months ago, something like that, and it was finally time to kind of get around to getting it ready, really. So it was all pretty much complete, intact. All the knob switches and buttons were there, and it had some great potential. But it hadn't been used in many years. In fact, the chap I bought it from had bought it to repair himself from somebody else that hadn't used it for years. So it really had been on the shelf for quite some time, one way or another. Anyways, it needed a complete overhaul of the mechanism and a deep clean and polish of the mech, the heads, the capstan, the pinch roller, new belts, put a new counter belt and a new main drive belt on there. Obviously the original ones had turned to goo and tar, so we got all that out. And yeah, I think it should be running fine now. And also the radio didn't work properly. It was fairly clear, but there was no FM stereo. It had drifted a little bit over the years, so we've just retuned that very slightly just to bring the FM stereo back. So I think all that remains then is to give it a bit of a whirl. Now, my normal copyright-free music tape has disappeared. I sold a couple of Walkmans yesterday, and I think I put one in to test them just before I posted them, and I think I've gone and sent my tape away to somebody. So I'm going to play you a few little snippets of somebody else's music, and hopefully we won't get any content matches, but we'll see how we get on. So, nice strong eject there, which is good. And we'll put this on to, let's have a look, tape, volume at 0. We've cleaned the pots and the switches, so there may be a tiny little bit of crackle left, which we'll clean out as we go. But here we go then. So, play. And we've also got rewind on here as well. Nice and strong. You can see the counterbelt going there. And fast forward. Good stuff. Right, okay. So let's just look at the radio real quick as well. And as usual, we'll turn the lights out because it interferes a bit with the FM. So we'll get the aerial up.
That would be knocked off the top, brother, remember.
Hey, word, when they working up a crowd, so they can be my girl.
Security and defense and the social.
So there we go then, the FM stereo is now crystal clear and the light's coming on when it's supposed to. Granted, it's not the best reception up in this room, but you get the idea. So there it is anyway, there's the RT-8360S from Toshiba. Tape's running really well, radio sounds great now, and it looks beautiful. So there you go, not too much work required in all honesty, but a bit of a show and tell, a decent service and a clean, and that's another one ready to be enjoyed for the years to come. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Please do consider subscribing if not already. Thanks to those that do support the channel, it's massively appreciated. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, stay safe, take care, all the best for now. Bye bye.